Welcome to the channel, friends. So today's project is going to be checking and adjusting the alignment on my Polaris ATV. Now this will apply to pretty much any make or model ATV out there. So if this is going to interest you, stay tuned and I hope you enjoy the video. Alright, so welcome back. Here is the ATV in question. This is my 2018 XP 1000. And over here is the Sportsman 850 Premium Trail. This is a 2020 model. So we just got back from last week. We did a 2-day ride in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, and I really got to try out these tires here, which is a set of 28-inch ITP Blackwater Evolutions. Great tire. I'm really impressed with this tire. Lots of grip, really comfortable ride. The steering is nice and light, even though it is a 28-inch tire. And also I have the beadlock rims from ITP on this machine. So this package right here, I'm really liking it so far. It's a much lighter combination than my full-on XM 310s, which is right over here. These are System 3 tires. They're full-on mud tires, 28-inch, and they're pretty heavy. I mean, they're 54 pounds with the beadlock. So compared to these, they're much more lighter in handling. It doesn't bog down the handlebar too much, even with the power steering. So I'm happy with the way these perform. I like the rounded profile on the tire, which I think helps with the performance on the trail, because that's most of the riding I do is trail riding and then some mud riding. So that's why I have a separate dedicated set of mud tires when I want to do that kind of ATV. But I did notice when I was, after my ride, after 2 days, that these tires are scrubbing more so on the outboard side of the lug, of the main lug. So if you can tell, it's more radius to right here. So it seems consistent all the way through this tire here on this side. And the funny thing is the leading edge, like that leading edge right there, is still brand new. It still has like the flashing, or whatever you want to call it, the little raised lip, the tire nub from being brand new. But then some of these have more wear on the outboard side of the lug. But the funny thing is on this side, it's the opposite kind of. It's the back side of the lug, but still the outboard side of the tire. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and figure out why this tire here is wearing out more so than any of the other tires on the machine. Rear tires are fine. There's no, excessive wear on the inside or the outside of the lugs. I'm happy with the condition of them in the back. But these front tires have some kind of issue going on. It's either going to be an alignment issue or it could be a balancing issue and have vibration, which is causing this weird kind of scalloping action in between the lugs. It kind of has a weird kind of spin on the tire, which is causing a weird pattern to develop on the tires pretty much immediately. I mean, I only put about maybe 120 miles on these tires, and I noticed this pattern developing. I always look at the lugs on my tires after a ride, whether I drive on pavement, hard pack, gravel, whatever it is, rocks. I always like to take a look at my tires when I'm done riding because I want to see how they're wearing. Okay, because that will bring forward an alignment issue or a balancing issue, like I said. So these being larger tires will kind of amplify any error there is in the alignment. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and try to rule out an alignment issue if there is any, and then I'll progress over into balancing the tires, because honestly, I never balanced these tires when I mounted them up. And looking back on it, I do drive this thing at 40, 50, maybe sometimes even 60 miles an hour. And they really should be balanced, regardless if you think they shouldn't be because they're off-road or whatever. But you spin those tires faster, you're going to want them balanced. If you stay under 30 miles an hour, you won't have an issue. I did notice when I was driving on pavement down a road just recently, last week, long ride on a pavement road, and there was a lot of vibration starting at like 28 to 30, 31 miles an hour. And then as I sped up to 35 and 40, it went away completely. It smoothed out. So that must be, I'm guessing, the air pressure, I should have had a little bit more air pressure. I think I had them at like 6.5 last week. I went ahead and inflated both these machines the other day to 7.5, and kind of that's my baseline. It's a good pressure for a good wear and traction, and it has a good rolling resistance, and the handlebars are not fighting you too much. Okay, so with that being said, you know, there's a lot of factors that happen. You know, every tire is kind of different. You know, every machine's kind of different weights of the rider, things like that. That all comes into play into how your machine and how your tires are going to handle and grip. I'm going to go ahead and set up the machines in a better configuration. I'm going to show you my kind of quick and easy setup I use for alignments on my ATV. All right, so I got everything set up properly and adjusted. And let me explain to you first what I'm doing here and kind of my system that I use. It's a very simple system. You basically have 4 jack stands, and I run a yellow rope all the way around 4 jack stands. I pull the string tight with tension. That way it's a nice straight line. And you basically have to go around and make each string here on the left and right parallel to each other. So it takes some finagling and adjusting to get the machine centered to the 2 ropes on each side. So my measurements here, they can be any number you want, but I try to get the rope as close as possible to the rim and tire on either side. So I centered out the machine, and I'm on the back side, I'm getting 53.5 on the rope center line, and then the same thing in the front here. So that's telling me that pretty much the string is parallel with each other. So Left side is parallel with the right side. That's good, right? Then you have to center the machine to that. So first thing you want to do when you do that is take your handlebars and straighten them out. I took a defining feature on the machine, which is the Polaris Star, and I lined it up with this point on the handlebar light pod here. So I took that point, I lined it up with just any straight edge or anything, just, you know, a visual kind of indicator to help you align everything correctly. I kind of did that. It's kind of hard to do on camera, but you get the idea. You want to align your handlebars nice and straight to a defining feature on your ATV. Every machine's going to be different. You're going to have to figure that out. Go stand in the back, stand in the front, see what looks good. You know, stand back like 10 feet or something, and center your handlebars before you do anything. Then I went ahead and adjusted my jack stands as you see them here. I went and adjusted the rope to be on center line of the tire. So it comes in contact here. I take my measurements as I'm adjusting the jack stands with my scale here. This is my trusty Mitutoyo metal scale. Some people call it a ruler, but it's a scale. But anyways, go ahead and adjust it like this. This is, I take it right on the center line, right at the center of that hubcap, and I'll go around and continuously adjust the jack stands, push them in and out to get that spacing just right, get the machine centered. So when you're done, you should have the same measurement here on the left side as on the right side, and then the same thing in the back. There is an offset in the back, so your width is going to be different. So you have to keep that in consideration, and then all you have to do is basically center that back end and center the front end. Then go ahead and kind of double check, triple check, whatever you have to do. I checked it like 3 times. Be really careful. These jack stands do move. They wobble a little bit because the top piece will move in the base. So another thing I do is I set the machine on this base here. It's a movable base. Essentially, the front and back are the same height, so I'm raising the machine up, and I'm creating less drag by inserting those multiple sheets of plastic trash bag in between the 2 wooden planks, which have a nice like sanded surface on them, so there's not a lot of drag to begin with. So I prepped those surfaces so they're slick. Then adding the plastic bag in there makes it so that you can rotate the wheel when you go to adjust it, and it'll give less friction. So that way, as you're making an adjustment, the wheel will actually take your adjustment easier, versus if it was on the concrete, it will give you a lot more resistance, and it might kind of fight you as you're making your adjustment. So with that being said, I went ahead and took some measurements on the front end. I do have a toe-in situation with this ATV, but one side is worse than the other. So this side here, which is the better side, I measured at the rim face, which is right here on center line, and right here on center line. I'm getting 200 thousandths over that rim face. So it could be more when you extrapolate it out to 28 inches out to here. So it's most likely like 0.3 or 0.4 once you reach out here. So that's one thing to consider. You'll want to straighten out the whole thing, not just the rim. You got to consider that that number could be larger depending on how big your wheels are. So I'm getting 200 thousandths on this side. On the bad side, which I noticed the excessive wear, I'm getting 600 thousandths. So I'm getting a lot more. The rule of thumb is that whether you want to be toe in or toe out, you don't want to be more than a 1/4 inch in or out. So now that I know that this side is excessively toe in, I'm going to go ahead and make an adjustment and bring the front edge of this tire out. That way it will correct that. Same thing with this other side. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to try to correct it to, I'm going to go neutral, because I don't want to be toe in or toe out. So I want to be right neutral, right straight on, like both tires front and back parallel. That way it does not wear the tire in either direction, because there still is a tiny bit of excessive wear on this one here, on the good side. But I would find that acceptable. That's going to get worse, obviously, with time. So I want to counteract that and readjust these and give it a nice alignment and just set it to that neutral position like I said, and go from there and see how it performs. So let's see if this can be picked up on camera. As you can see, the toe in right there clearly in comparison to the straight line of the string. Very drastic on this side. On the good side, not so much. You can only kind of measure it with a ruler. So let me talk about the reasons why you'd want toe in or toe out. Toe in is usually seen on sport quads, and it offers more precise control of the steering and of the machine. Toe out, on the other hand, is more seen on utilities ATVs, 4x4s like this one, and side-by-sides, because it offers more stability. But the downside of that, having toe out, is that the machine may feel uneasy on the trail and dart around while you're driving in a straight line. So just because it comes a certain way from the factory does not mean that's the proper way. It all depends on what kind of riding you do and what kind of riding you prefer. So you want to set the machine up accordingly to your conditions. My take on it is that I want these things dead straight. Okay, I want the back wheels parallel with the front wheels. That way, it's a kind of the middle of the road situation kind of scenario. I don't want excessive scrubbing on either direction. I want just a nice, smooth ride with precise control, and I think that's the best way of doing that is with a neutral setting. I don't need any added stability. This machine already has wider wheel offset built into the tires, the rims. So I'm getting 50 in the front, 50 and a half, and 52 and a half in the rear. I got plenty of width, I got plenty of stability, so I don't need stability. I'm just gonna go for more precise control and have these tires last longer. That's really important to me. And I'm pretty sure it's important to you. So if you do a lot of asphalt driving like I do, going to and from the trail, it will eat up your tires if you have a bad alignment. So like I said, it's really important for me to save as much tread in these tires as possible because they are expensive and you don't want to be replacing them often. So I'm going to go ahead now and make the adjustment needed on this machine, and I'll kind of demonstrate for you guys all of that on camera. Alright, so this is where you make your adjustment. You have three components. You have two tie rod ends, and then you have the tie rod shaft itself. So what you have to do is back off these nuts. Those are 17 millimeter, and then the shaft has flats for a 1/2 inch wrench. You go ahead and loosen those, both sides, and then that allows you to rotate and thread in or out this tie rod. That's how you make your adjustment. Then you just go ahead and dial it in the way you want, and then you lock down these nuts once again up against the rod, both sides, and then you're done. So this might take a couple tries. You know, you make your adjustment, then take a measurement, and then you go ahead and make another adjustment. So it's a trial and error type thing. You always want to make sure that your handlebars are going to be centered the whole time. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, show you guys what it looks like, and I'll show you the results. So since I want to bring the front edge of the tire, this side of the tire, outwards, I want to contract the tie rod. So it's going to make this length shorter. That way this back end is going to tuck in, and this front side here towards the front of the machine is going to push out and get rid of that toe in condition. And I want to go towards neutral. So just got to figure out which side does what. You just start rotating this, and that seems like it's rotating this into the proper direction. So after one or two revolutions, I'm going to recheck what I have for measurements on the face of the rim and see where I lie in reference to the string. So I'm going to go ahead back and forth and do both sides, and then I'll show you guys the finished result. Alright, so I'm done aligning the ATV. It did take some finagling, going back and forth, making adjustments, centering the handlebars, making adjustments again, measuring. It was a continuous repeat cycle of that for like 10 minutes straight. And pretty much having the base like I do here with the multiple layers of plastic gives it less resistance and allows you to actually turn the tie rod by hand. Otherwise, if you were laying right on the ground with your tires, it'll be too much resistance and it'll be hard to turn that and kind of adjust that with less effort. So that really helps having these bases. You know, I just made those out of some scrap LVL wood, and it's come in handy. I have a bunch of wheel chocks made up just like that for when I use them on the Corvette and the truck or whatever for whatever reason. But yeah, pretty much everything is adjusted. It's leaning towards the toe in. I have it set just about 100 thousandths on the rim face. That's where I'm taking my measurements on center line. I got it so it's equal, about 100 thousandths toe in on both sides. So that's good. That's well within spec. Like I said, you want it plus or minus a 1/4 inch throughout the whole length of the tire, the whole width, diameter of the tire. So it being like that is going to give me more precise control with that toe in. I don't want toe out. It's just, I don't find it appealing. So I'm happy with how the alignment is. Now you can look down the side of the ATV and it looks dead straight. You can barely tell that there is toe in because it's, like I said, only about 100 thousandths of a toe in. So this is going to be better results for, you know, longevity of the tire. It's going to have better wear. It should not scallop and, you know, have that weird kind of scrubbing pattern now on the lugs. It should be a nice even tread. I will go ahead eventually probably and swap the tires out, you know, and do a rotation just to keep everything nice and even and to keep the tires in good shape. But there it is. It's very simple, you know, rope trick, if you want to call it. It gets the job done with a lot of accuracy, especially if you double check and, you know, as you're going along, always double check your jack stands because there's always a chance that they will move and then it will, you know, skew your results when it comes to a measurement. But if you do that, check your handlebars, make sure your jack stands are in place, proper location, keep the machine centered. You should be good and you should yield great results with this simple method. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Happy riding. So I just want to demonstrate the accuracy of the string method when done properly. I have a compass level on my phone. This is an app that has a ton of useful information, and basically I can read the XY angle on this, and what you want to pay attention to is the X, okay, in this situation here, which is towards the top middle of the screen. So I'm going to put this squared up piece of aluminum up against the face, making contact with 4 points, which are the bolt heads in this case, which should give us a good plane to rest on. And I'm going to set the reference, which is the rear wheel. So our reference is, when I hold this nice and tight up against there, about 0.5 degrees. You see the X? That's what we're concerned about right now. Don't worry about any of the other information. The X on here is 0.5 degrees. Okay, this is the rear wheel on the right-hand side, looking from the back to the front. So 0.5 is our reference. Let's take a look at the front wheel now. So the front wheel, in reference to the back, is dead nuts parallel. We have 0.5 degrees positive here on the X. So we have a nice straight alignment here on the right-hand side of the ATV. So if I pitch this, it's going to affect the accuracy. So I'm trying to level this off with that bubble level there, which is very accurate. So we're still at, you know, somewhere around 0.5 to 0 degrees. If I get this thing nice and level, I'm at 0.1. Okay, so we'll call it 0.1, 0.2. That's very precise if you ask me. That's 0.3 of a degree difference. So front to back, it's very parallel. Well guys, that's it for today. I really hope you enjoyed the video. And if you have any questions or comments, please place them right down below. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.